Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Combines webinar. We're going to wait a few minutes here as people join. Hope everyone's having a great day so far. Spencer and I are excited to get to talk with you all today. Thanks for joining. And I still see people getting on, so we're going to give it a minute here, but we'll get started soon. I will say that we are already recording this webinar, so if you miss anything today, I will send this out again if you want to go back to it, and we'll go from there. But we're excited to get started here. And we might have some people joining throughout, but I think we will go ahead and get started. And I will kick us off with just an overview of the Combine. So just to introduce myself, I'm Jessie Rudolph, and I'm on staff here at the Combine. The Combine is an AgTech incubator here in Nebraska, and we have a physical location at Nebraska Innovation Campus. We support scalable ag tech startups, all focused in food and ag technology. And we actually support founders from around the state as well. So somebody doesn't have to just be based here in Lincoln. And we are supporting around 40 startups right now. And the Combine started in 2019. And since then, our founders have accumulated around $40 million in both VC funding and grant funding as well. So we're just really excited to assist our founders. And another big part of the Combine is that we love to put on events for our community. So we have started a monthly webinar series. So this is our third webinar, and going forward, we will continue to provide webinars like this one with just a bunch of different topics. So if anyone has a desired topic, please let me know separately. But I think with that little overview, we'll get started here in a second. I will say we're going to do a Q&A at the end of this session. So please just save your questions for the end, and we'll get started here. So with that, I'm so happy to introduce Spencer, and we'll get going here.
Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining. I'm sorry, Jesse, for breaking the rules for my very first thing, but I would say if you have questions while I'm going, you can ask them, and if we get derailed, we'll just try to reel it back in. I hope to have some interaction more than keeping to the script. So, sorry, Jesse, I could have warned you. But yeah, if any of you have questions as we get going, I'd love for you to jump in, and maybe we can be a little bit more interactive here. I am going to share a few slides to get started, and then hoping to make it more of a discussion, um, if we can. All right. So, um, and then I've got one more window to pull up, I think. All right. So, I am coming to you from Clear Lake, Iowa right now. I'm sitting in our office at Ag Ventures Alliance, and Ag Ventures Alliance is a cooperative of farmers that have been working together since 1998 toward a common mission of increasing farm profitability. We do that by investing in technology and innovation that can help farmers. That looks like a lot of different things. It could be everything from the combine graduate Nebraska native grain weevil robot that keeps farmers out of bins, all the way to a, gene editing a new trait um, to help farmers in their corn production, uh, and everything in between. So we are going to talk about kind of what is happening with technology on the farm and where that's going. I'm going to I'll give you the I'll give the sneak peek is that AI is huge, robotics are coming, and bio is really important. Biology is really important, but I'm gonna try to steer a little bit towards some of the um, less obvious ones, and maybe kind of some of the underlying trends that are driving that a little bit. So, um, one of the uh, so we're gonna I would just like to kind of prompt you here, that we're used to probably thinking about products, but what if it's actually a totally different system that's going to change the way that we farm or that we approach new technologies? And a few examples of those would be, um, could we potentially make our own inputs on the farm? Um, there's also a category of products where it's more important to have feedback loops and a feed of new and better data coming in all the time to improve the products. And as that cycles, they get better and better over time. What if the products you were using compounded and got like interest and got better every year? And then the kind of the third area that I think has holds a ton of opportunity that's really being overlooked right now, in my opinion, is the same way that we see aerospace and space technologies applying to defense and defense contracting. I think ag crosses the same way for everything that the military does on the land. So, um, so I think there's a huge opportunity for these dual use companies that are applicable off-road in the field and off-road for our military. And so I would just to make sure that you're all still awake at 5 minutes in. If anybody's feeling brave, could you maybe drop in the chat which of these feels the closest to happening now, and which one sounds craziest or furthest away? And Jesse, I'll let you be on the lookout if for any of those that come in the chat, and you can interrupt and see if we have any consensus there. So, little bit more about Ag Ventures Alliance. I mentioned it's a group of farmers. We're set up as a cooperative and have a and really started with kind of the almost a grassroots effort all out of desperation during a time when corn prices were really low and farmers wanted to do something about that. They developed an ethanol plant as the first project, went and raised the money to build that plant from their friends and neighbors, and and we had about 1,000 farm families in northern Iowa, southern Minnesota that ended up having a really good first experience as angel investors when that plant was acquired in a cash and stock deal by Green Plains Energy that then went public a few years after that. So then the master stroke was somebody deciding to say, what happened? What would happen if we kept this group together? Um, and and the rest is history. So today the opportunities have changed. We're going to talk about those. I don't think we could build an ethanol plant today if we wanted to, but what we are building is a system for farmers to participate in innovation and the upside of it. Um, we have basically three things that we do. We make direct investments in startups on behalf of the organization. We have an angel investor group called the Countryside Angels. Hopefully, some of you have been invited to that in the past through our through partnership and work we're doing with the combine. Um, but that angel group allows farmers to make their own investments in startups if they want to. We facilitate the process. Um, and then the third thing that we do is with our partners at the Ag Launch Accelerator, we've developed a group of early adopter innovative farmers that are willing to work directly with startups, test technology on the farm, give user feedback, and hopefully not say anything mean about them on the internet yet. So those are kind of the main things that we do, and and as we've built this over time, we've kind of realized what we think our edge is to include the farmer at as many steps as possible as the technology is being built. So um, we have loaded our investment committee with farmers. We use farmers in the accelerator selection process for ag launch. We have the field trial network where farmers are testing technology, giving real world feedback um, on what's working, what's not working, and coaching those founders on how to address those things. So that's kind of what we're up to. Um, and do we need to pause for, do we have some responses coming in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I can read off the responses for you here. Would you mind going back to that slide if it's easy to get back there?
Oh,
Just do
sure.
that again. Yeah,
Yep.
great. Okay, let's see here. So Kane Farm says AI seems just around the corner, but making own inputs seems far off. And then Deborah says defense tech type sensing products and systems are already happening. And then we have dual use has some overlap, but feels like the tools needed for farming are very different from those used in the military. The frame might be similar, but the attachments are very different. So, would you like to address any of those?
Sure. No, I think, well, first of all, thanks for sharing your opinion. It's hard to do in a group sometimes. I think actually I'll just let them ride and we'll all find out together as, as these get developed um, and we'll see where it lands.
Thanks for sharing those, everyone.
So, so I wanted to talk about these kind of areas that I think not everybody's talking about. Um, so so for sure, AI, we're all reading about it every day. And I will say that's a big piece of, I think, what is driving these things as kind of the next layer below. So, um, so when we talk about making our own on-farm inputs, um, I I agree that it does seem far off, and I think it's yet to be seen on if that can compete with um, for example, a massive nitrogen fertilizer plant at world scale producing millions of tons of nitrogen fertilizer per year. Um, can something like that really be shifted and spread out to farms and still be cost effective? Um, I don't know. We've seen some really smart people working in the space, uh, and the thing that makes us that makes us interested is that we know farms are kind of in this really difficult space of basically buying every input from a monopoly or oligopoly, a few people in the space, and then putting those things in the field, growing and selling a commodity with no pricing power. So some of the things that we are looking for and investing in is to try to improve the farmer's position and shift kind of the balance of power there. And if we look at just kind of the average farm budget, fertilizer is one of the biggest line items on there. So So we're very interested in solutions that can change that. We've seen a couple interesting companies that are trying to basically develop types of nitrogen generators, pulling nitrogen from our air, putting it into water, things like that. I think there's been some kind of like uh, recently a high profile kind of questionable results on some of that. So not endorsing any of it. We haven't found the solution that we have backed yet, but I will say uh, the technologists building are testing different types of catalysts to make some of those reactions happen in other ways, and we're going to keep our eyes on it. The other thing that we've also seen something similar for biological products. Um, do we have anybody in the webinar that makes their own beer or makes their own wine today? So those are both fermentation processes, much that can be very similar to the way that biological products are produced in ag today, or or other active ingredients, and we think that there's a possible future where maybe that could be done on the farm or closer to the farm. The next category that I talked about a little bit is products that get better every season. There's one of those that we're all very used to if we're a farmer, and that would be seed genetics, where uh, every season is a season of results, and you get to see what's working, what's not working. The companies breeding those genetics take that data back and their field trial data back to make new crosses and new and engineer different varieties, and they get better and better with time. We're producing much much more efficiently today than we were 20 years ago, or 40 years ago, or 60 years ago. And a lot of that is attributed to the genetic improvements. Um, well, uh, AI and data capture is very important in doing that. And I would make the argument that we will see other products start to compound with data collection, like biologicals that are bred to be more effective each season. And even some of the software and the tools like we see with the AI, the big AI models coming out with improved versions uh, every hour. Is it every hour? Is that how fast they're going? That's what it feels like anyway. Um, but but I think there's an opportunity for products that compound with increased data and smarter data. So that's another area that I think we should be looking for, and for potential products that we want to be part of. Uh, then another one that kind of the third category here is to simplify. Where are there extra steps or extra layers in the supply chain, or where can we reduce complexity? Um, I think we've seen recent news articles about maybe some of the seed companies not supporting some of their existing channels going forward, trying to take layers out, and I think there's a case to be made that there's changes coming there. Um, and then the third would be that defense and ag crossover. And and I agree that there's when we talk about the attachments, there's tons of specialization, but but there is also a lot of crossover with the types of environments the machines will be operating in, some of the work that they'll be doing, and and the resilience and reliability that's required in both systems. So had a chance to talk about this with the on-farm inputs. Um, I think the uh, again, I think that the opportunity here is, are we able to so one is, are we able to gain a cost advantage? But also, when we look at like the biologicals, for example, is there actually a possibility for a performance advantage? Um, I've read some interesting articles where if seed is grown on the exact farm that where it was grown and it's planted back there, that it will outperform the previous generation, um, even if it's the same variety. So so I think there's, and don't take that as gospel. You can go check it out for yourself too. But I think that hyper locally adapted products could be an interesting unlock for farmers on some products. Then we talked about capturing data and how to compound that. And and I would say the obvious example is training AI models. We have tried to create kind of a flywheel of our own that's a little bit different in that, um, and from our investment angle, where we're helping companies get started, plugging them into the farmer network, getting results from the field trials, and putting farmer feedback into the product and using that to make a further investment decision on, is should does this warrant further investment, further effort, and then spin the flywheel again after that. And then the taking out the cost of some of the products is, I think that again is a little bit of an obvious one. We can make money by we can increase our profit by either increasing revenue, selling more stuff, or for a higher price, or we can take cost out of the system. Um, and I like a concept that I think Elon Musk coined the concept as the idiot index when he was looking at building rockets to go to space. And he was they were I think there was some piece of the rocket that was just like an outrageous price. It took years to source, and and in the ultimate kind of way that he does is, he was looked at it, realized, hey, this is like $2,000 worth of metal, and we're going to pay $300,000 for the part. Why don't we just engineer it ourselves, start making the part? Um, and so so I think the if we start to look at the difference between the price that we might be paying for some of the tools that we're using on the farm and the raw materials to make that, that can give us some guidance on where we should focus our effort, or where some of the opportunity is. Um, I I'm going to give you the probably the hardest example, but it stands out because, again, it's a huge item on the farmer's budget, and there's a huge and obvious difference here. Um, and that's if we look at what farmers are selling the corn they grow for. Um, I looked at the my elevator's local bid. I think it was $4.53 per bushel today. A bushel is 60 pounds, very similar to uh, a unit of seed corn that we would buy when we plant our field, except when we plant the seed, we're paying um, we'll just call it $300 per bushel for that corn. So we buy it for $300 a bushel. We sell it for $4.50 a bushel. Um, we are all very in tune with the cost of production of that bushel. Um, and so I think there's opportunity there. Um, if uh, if uh, if there are fair competitive forces. Um, so and I think there are some other categories where this can be applied as well. So um, again, talked about some of the shared problems in defense and in ag, and I think that um, this has always been the problems have always been kind of shared problems, but what's changed recently is the way that our uh, military can can work with startups. So it used to be many multi-year, very long process. You had to go many layers and through one of the five defense prime contractors. Now they've changed the way that they're testing and working with new companies that makes this much more feasible. So that's the catalyst for the change. Why we think there's a new opportunity here. Um, the thing that I think is still a challenge is a startup can only focus on so much. That focus is really valuable, and can you afford to divide it between two different efforts? Um, but I do think that having extra resources and extra development in these hard conditions can probably make better products that we can use on the farm down the road. So, I guess some of the takeaways here is that unfortunately none of this happens overnight. It's a ladder. You've got to climb step by step, um, and uh, and there's no way to get to the top without it. Uh, but I'd say some of and then this is maybe back to some of the what's close, what's far away. But my read on that is so I think that all of us can probably automate some of our admin type work using AI today. That's here. Um, we're all probably planting recent genetics in our field. That's an example of the compounding products. And we are seeing I think we're seeing some pretty effective, like advanced materials, advanced fertilizer type products. Um, and so then some of the things that I think are coming would be some of the robotics. Uh, I think that there are cases where they are showing some real value. Um, and the same for better biologicals. Both of those are, I think both of those are well on the way, and we should all be paying attention to them as farmers. And then where I think some of these things are still early would be manufacturing your own inputs on the farm. Um, so so I think that a lot of our responses and I are kind of looking at some of those pretty similarly. Um, And as farmers, I think you know, we buy the stuff that's proven. I would encourage you to start testing the stuff that's just emerging. Um, and then you leave the rest for the people that are structured to take long-term risk like Ag Ventures Alliance does. So with that, the thing that I would like to leave you with is that being totally on the sideline is not free and it doesn't pay. Um, I like to use the uh, this will probably land differently being in Iowa versus Nebraska, but in Iowa we like to say where we get probably quite a bit more rain than Nebraska, but we like to say that you're paying for drainage tile whether it's in the ground or not. And that's because you either paid up front to put it in the ground, or you didn't pay for it and your crops are suffering from that every year. And so I think that that's actually a fair way to look at technology, because if you are on the sidelines for too long, any of those benefits or advances that you didn't take advantage of, you can't go back. You can't go back to do that and make up. We can't make up 20. We can't make up for yield we lost in 2025, and um, so I would just encourage you to be a part of it in a small way. Um, and the way that I think the way that you do that is just size the risk appropriately. We think about this a lot in our investing world. We structure our investments to be all kind of a certain size and triggered at certain times. And so I think on the farm it can work the same way. If I'm a little league farmer, I have 130 acres, so experiments for me need to be much smaller than that. I probably shouldn't be doing a 130-acre experiment. But uh, whether it's having your own garden, having a plot at the edge of your field, um, and testing some of these things, I think is a very worthwhile thing for all of us to do as farmers, to be plugged in, to see what's starting to work, and to make ourselves better on the rest of the acres that we manage. So, I guess that brings me to kind of the end of our uh, the slides, and would love to have a little bit more discussion here and questions that any of you might have.
Sure. So we already have a question in the chat, but I will get to that in one moment. My first question would be, can you tell us a bit more about what your day to day looks like?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I might zoom it out a little bit, but so we have we have a team of five. We have one person that is doing all administrative office management type stuff. There are two of us that are investing. We have one person dedicated to our farm trials and supporting the founders and the farmers that are working together in the field. And then we have one person that is working on kind of like ecosystem building, and that person's part-time hosting webinars like this for founders and farmers to learn and engage. So that's the organization. And then the two of us that are investing, we are spending a lot of our time talking with founders of new businesses. I think we each try to take um, like about 5 new startup pitches per week, or more if we can. And then we're spending some time supporting the existing companies that we've invested in and helping them figure out problems. And then we also are going kind of like um, out out into the world for different events and conferences and um, where we can meet new people that are going to be able to plug into the system and help and then there is also a fair amount of just like researching and reading and learning and um, everything that we're working with is kind of hopefully by definition just kind of like at the edge um, of what's being done. And so it is always like um, the research piece is, you know, a pretty big piece trying to get your head around like the portion that you can that some of these like great technical founders are have spent the last 10 years researching and now they're ready to start a business.
Yes, very good. And that leads in really well to our question here in the chat from Bill. How does one get in touch with Ag Ventures Alliance to work with farmers to test new technology for customer discovery, but not as focused on investment?
Sure. Bill, so actually we had so the Combine is actually um a channel partner with the through the work that we're doing with Ag Ventures Alliance and Ag Launch. There's I think they could get you signed up for the Farmer Innovation Network if you're not already. And and I think from there, the best thing to do is kind of raise your hand, like maybe you're doing right now, and say, I want to learn more. I want to take the next step. We do we do ask everybody to become a member of Ag Ventures Alliance, which is a pretty small commitment. It's a $250 membership. You can do it online. And and then um, and I should say that the farmers that we have working with these startups, it's definitely not for everybody. The tests and the trials don't always work. In fact, we're trying to work with them early enough to where it's probably not likely they're going to work great the first time, and can integrate farmer feedback. But we are trying to find the great builders that will be able to do that. So, but yeah, I would encourage you to connect, and we can give you the inside view of that.
Yes, very good. And Spencer just put his email in the chat as well. So thank you for that. And next, we're going to move into a bit of a fireside chat. But if anyone has questions throughout, just put them in the chat and I will take a look at that. Okay, good question here, Spencer. What's real versus what's hype in ag tech today?
Ooh, um, the you know, unfortunately, the on-farm fertilizer piece that we talked about there, I think that there was a company that did build a lot of hype, and then they had just like a lot of negative like customer results this past year, and and I think that that might fall into hype right now. I want it to be real, um, but I think that might fall into hype right now, and and I think it's the thing that happens a lot is that sometimes sometimes these founders are kind of like living in the future, or like they see the vision so much that they kind of like may like overestimate where the product is currently at versus where they think it's going to be in, some amount of time. Um, so I think that's the watch out for when you're working with like some new technology, new products, is that these things like are just they just naturally happen. I think it's not all it's not usually that anybody is trying to like um trying to like pull something over on you, but I think they just get the like blinders on for that. And I think I think that there's been um there's also been I think actually, one of the things that I think people are there actually I'll give you two things that I think a lot of people believe to be hype that are actually real, kind of the inverse of that. And so I think the collars, like the virtual fencing collars for cattle, I think that's real. And I know there was a recently a startup called Halter, raised like a big chunk of money, I think $300 million to grow their business from one of the famous like Silicon Valley West Coast venture funds called Founders Fund. And they got a lot of hate from farmers that like this isn't real. This isn't a thing. They don't know what they're doing. But I've talked to the customers and they love the product. So and I think if you do the math on it, and on a lot of a lot of the companies building in ag, um, food is a pretty big market. We all need it. Food and energy and food, fiber, and energy. That's what we're making as farmers. They're the biggest markets in the world. So that would be, I think, an example that people think is hype, but it's real. And then I would also say, and I'm giving a couple examples here that are not our portfolio, just to try to be fair, but I think also the laser weeding, carbon robotics, again, they've gotten a lot of attention. Um, I think that's real, and it's maybe not I don't think the cost curve is effective for your like broad acre row crop farmers yet, but it is cost effective already for specialty crop growers, and I think I think that's also something that people think is hype, but it's actually real today.
Yes, very good. Thank you for all of those thoughts. I'm going to go to this question in the chat again. Are most of the farmers that you work with grain producers? And if so, are there any smaller farmers, like less than 1,000 acres? Or I guess if I was going to expand on that, can you tell us a bit more about the producers that you work with?
Yeah. So Uh, so Ag Ventures Alliance very much started with kind of like your typical Corn Belt farmer. Just the way that we started was really like focused in kind of North Iowa, and a lot of the farms look the same. Um, but over time, there have been a lot of farmers that really like resonate with this mission, understand the problems that farmers are facing, and then they've joined the organization. And um, so now we've got kind of a concentration in this North Iowa area. We've got a concentration around our partners down in Ag Launch, which is in Memphis. So we've got a good chunk of growers in the Mid South. We have a small cohort out in the Willamette Valley of Oregon, um, and uh, and then we've got some that are just kind of spread out across the rest of the country. And then as far as the farmers that are actually engaging with startups and plugged into the trials and that sort of thing, we've kind of strategically tried to recruit and pick people that are going to have a lot of different capabilities. So, which is important to the startups and the technologies. There's, uh, we would like to have some livestock farmers that can work with new livestock technology. We'd like to have um, farmers that are no-till. We need some that are not no-till. We need all these different variations to get good trial data and to be able to work with a lot of different types of startups. So within that network, I think we have like a very small, like 1 or 2 acre, like super intensive market garden uh, type farmer. Um, all the way up to like your big like I'm not sure what the biggest farm is, maybe 20,000 acres or something um like that. And kind of a bunch of things spread out in between. I think the thing that brings the group together is trying to make a better future for farmers, and that resonates with all different sizes.
Very good. It sounds quite diverse. So that's great. Okay, one more question in the chat here. Does the organization ever invest in tech more focused on helping ag researchers to more indirectly help boost farm profitability?
Um, We have not done much for like funded research. I do think there is an opportunity to do that, or that we would do that with the right opportunity, but there's also like quite a few different organizations doing that already. And so I think I think for us to do it, it would have to be something that is maybe like really different from what is traditionally funded. I'll give you an example that we did do. This last year in March, we announced the first, we called it a discovery trial grant. And so we collected applications for basically, we tried to ask people for their craziest idea that could have a really big upside for farmers. Um, and we got a bunch of and it had to be a farmer that was going to test the idea and do the work. And um, so we gave a $10,000 grant to uh, a farmer that is trying to graze turkeys in his growing corn right now. Some of the other ideas were like different types of rotations, and the idea was like, could there maybe be some like practice changes or something that's not really investable yet, but it could have a really big impact on farm profitability. And so that's the angle of that. And so we do have like a little example anyway of the kind of thing that would have to be different for us to um, for Ag Ventures Alliance to bite that off anyway. Otherwise, we would maybe call Chris Bankston, who's on the call here from Iowa Corn, and see if uh, see if they're interested in funding the research.
Nice to see you here, Chris. Okay, my next question. Just in your perspective, what are data ownership and trust questions that come up on the farm?
This is a super timely question, and I think everybody, I think farmers have been burned a little bit by the data issues. But I am gonna take like I'm gonna take a little bit of a different view just from like I'm gonna take it from my own personal experience, not the not the stance of any organizations here, but I think that we're kind of at the point where you have to be willing to use your data to get the best to get the best results. And if you're holding on to all of it for not going to share it with anyone or anything, um, then I don't think you're going to get the best like the best results or the best products. So I hope that I've talked with several people, including we have, we're supporting Ag Launch, and they've got a good effort of like trying to get farmers to work together to manage their data together, and plug that into the startups so that on terms that are fair to the farmer. Um, and so and one of the farmers in our farmer network is out trying to build a farmer data cooperative also. And so and I stand to be very wrong here because as we've seen with like the AI models being developed, that having proprietary data sets can be a huge advantage. Um, when building those. But I I just I don't think that I don't think that I think that my data is more valuable if I can plug it into some of these systems that are going to turn around and give me a better product to use or smarter recommendations. So that's kind of my angle on it. And um, yeah.
Very good. Thank you for that answer. Next question on my end. Where's the smart money going right now, and what do you think that signals for producers?
Well, the thing about smart money is that sometimes you don't figure out if it was smart for a long time. Um, so uh, I guess it's to be determined.
I like it. I feel like that's just investing in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, yeah. You
Very good. So we have just about 8 minutes left to be respectful to everyone's time. So, what other questions do we have from the audience? You can either put them in the chat or if you come off mute, I will call on you.
does anyone on the call here have like a certain type of technology or an example of a startup that they're really excited about?
Feel free to think on that and you can put that in the chat and then I'll just toss out another question as well. So, when you're deciding whether to back a company, what tells you that a technology will be viable versus like maybe kind of going back to like maybe it's just a hype thing like we talked about before. So, I think kind of more from your portfolio standpoint.
Sure. Well, we we have we've kind of like built farmers into every layer of this. So Jordan and I are the two people doing doing the investing, screening, companies, meeting with founders and startups. We both have small farms ourselves and get to experience the pain points of operating a farm. We then have an investment committee that we take those to, um, also majority farmers. We so we have just kind of like structurally built in the farmer view all along the way. So so if something goes uh from like all the way through our process and we make an investment, then I guess a lot of farmers had to be hyped up over it, which probably makes it investable anyway. So So I guess that's our approach versus like I think I guess I just don't know if we could I don't think we could get an investment through that didn't have an application, like a real application to farmers. Um,
Love it. That's great. So here in the chat in Pennsylvania, we're excited about Burrow. That sounds great. And there's a link to Burrow in the chat as well for anyone. Here's a question. Do you have any insight on how to convince farmers to adopt a new technology? What is most important to them? ROI, trust, training, support, and costs. So, I guess kind of how I would take that question is like, what are some of the most important factors that farmers tell you about, or maybe concerns?
yeah, well, so let me give a little example. Like I think sometimes if you're maybe this is just my algorithm, but sometimes we hear a lot about like how farmers don't adopt new technology or they're slow to adopt. Um, but I actually think that's kind of a myth. And I think if we look at like we look at some of the seed traits that have come out. How long did it take dicamba tolerant soybeans to reach 60% of farms and that had major issues with the product. Um, and so I think the main thing is like you have to build something that's really good, and that's really hard to do. And so uh but I think yeah, you just really have to like get to some as a founder, you've got to like get to something where um that your customers love and then you grow it from there. Um so that's kind of like my take on it. And so there's different reasons that they love different products for different reasons. Um but that's the main thing is that I don't think there's a shortcut. I just think you have to be great and it's really hard to do that.
Very good. I think as we're coming up to 1 o'clock here, what is the best way for our audience here to stay in touch with Ag Ventures Alliance or get more info?
I think the if if you're total believer and you're ready to jump in, go to agventuresalliance.com and become a member. If you need a little slower path or a little bit more information, then I think joining the Farmers Innovation Network would be the path there. And I will see if I can drop a link to that um,
Yeah.
in the chat.
And Spencer and I both put our emails in the chat, so feel free to grab those if you'd like. And Spencer just put that link in the chat as well. But I think as we're wrapping up here today, again, please follow up with us if there's anything else. And thank you so much, Spencer, for joining us today. And again, I would say just please stay in touch with me and the Combine. If there's any other content that you're interested in, we'd be happy to take some feedback. So thanks everyone so much for joining and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.